point in Africa, in comes the dragon.
You know, when you're a friend of Nana Aredamwa, you never miss anything Prof Adams Bodomo.
Oh, so you've been following his things, eh?
We're actually friends on Facebook.
Really?
Yes.
What's your name?
he has a very funny name, so you know. Oh, so you're a friend on Facebook. I'm reading more. Let me read more. Africa, China, Europe relations, conditions and conditionalities. Journal of International Studies. How African migrants in China cope with barriers to health care. This is Godfred. You were in China a few years ago.
Really?
No, this is Kojo. No, this is Godfred is the one who.
You were at one of the book launches of Nanare.
Oh, yeah, right.
That's there as well. Olympio's place, Jamrock. Yes.
You know him.
Yes.
Amazing stuff. So my guest is Professor Adams Bodomo, who's a globally recognized academic, has multiple interests, speaks many. How many languages do you speak?
Well, maybe 5 or 6.
5.
But I mean, speak, understand. Maybe I should say.
How many languages do you understand?
Yeah, about 5 or 6.
About 5. So you obviously understand English.
Yes.
Dagari.
A little bit of Chui.
A little bit of Chui. Do you understand Hausa?
No, not so much. Yeah, no.
I hear you understand Chinese.
Yes, I understand some Chinese.
Some Chinese.
Yeah. I understand French. I understand German.
You understand French?
Yeah, I speak French actually. I understand some German and some Norwegian. I use Norwegian to write my exams.
You wrote an exam in Norwegian?
Norwegian, yeah. Many years ago.
And you understand German?
A little, because Vienna, Austria is a German-speaking city. So I understand a little bit of German. Yeah.
Wow. And you are a linguist?
Yes. By the way, linguists are not always multilingual. Linguists are scientists of language. So Chomsky is one of the best linguists in the world.
He's one of the greatest minds in the world.
Exactly. He doesn't speak that many languages. Maybe 1 or 2.
What is it about linguistics that fascinates you?
It fascinates me. It is a window to how the mind works. So when somebody speaks a language, through that language, you can use it to understand how the person thinks, how they work, how his mind works, and so on. So his or her mind works, and so on. So it's a window to understanding human beings, to understanding what they want to say, and so on and so forth. So
it's a science of language.
It's a science of language.
So you can get to a people's culture through their language.
Exactly.
I see.
So yeah, it's really a vehicle through which to express somebody's culture, somebody's inner feelings, to express the environment around the person, so on so forth.
So you are described as one of the world's leading scholars in African linguistics. So obviously linguistics is your cup of tea. But the other thing which fascinates me about you is that I understand you are the first black faculty member of the University of Vienna. Am I capturing this right? Which is... It took over 650 years for this to happen. Is this correct?
Well, the German-speaking system, the university system is a little bit different from here at the university. In the African universities or even universities worldwide. They insist so much on what is called chair professorships.
Chair professorships.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here, a lot they talk too much about departments. But in the German-speaking world, one of the most important units of the university is what's called a chair professorship, and that's the ultimate, that's the highest academic. I'm not talking about administrative, where you have rectors and vice chancellor, but that's the highest academic position somebody can get. So I was lucky to land this position. Actually, I didn't even know that I was the first black person. But when I arrived there, that African journalists, I'm in diaspora. Africans who are living in Vienna. People of African origins, they were excited about it and decided to talk about it, and I got.
So you didn't even know?
I didn't even know. And once the euphoria died down, I set to work. It wasn't the most important thing was not to be the first, but to do something. To
but it is a very significant. Maybe you want to downplay it, but it's a very significant achievement. Thank you. Think that you actually studied in Ghana for both your first and second degrees before you traveled.
Yes,
so you studied at Legon.
Yes,
this is our same Legon.
Yes, our same Legon. Like you and me. I heard you say you were at Legon.
Yes.
Yes. So
I see. What hall were you in?
Pardon me?
What hall were you in?
I was a farmer. I'm a farmer.
Oh, Ekwafu Hall.
Yeah, I'm a farmer.
For both undergrad and postgrad.
For both undergrad and postgrad. Once a farmer, always a farmer.
When did you enter Legon?
Pardon me?
When did you enter
Legon? In 1980.
You entered Legon in 1980.
Were you born then?
I was born in 1981.
You see.
You entered Legon the year before I was born.
Of course.
Are you kidding me?
I'm a veteran.
But you don't look that old.
Yeah, you see. Now you see it. Now you know it.
So you entered Legon 42 years ago.
Yes. Okay.
To study linguistics.
Study linguistics and Swahili and French.
Oh, linguistics, Swahili and French.
Swahili and French. So, but after my first year, I dropped. Usually, you drop one of the subjects. So I dropped and went on with French and linguistics.
So where were you educated before you entered Legon?
I was educated at Nandam Secondary School.
Oh, Nandam.
One of the best secondary schools in Ghana.
I'm told.
Yes.
So you are from Nandam or Laura?
I'm from Jirapa.
Jirapa. You are from Jirapa?
Jirapa municipality.
I see.
Yeah. Where actually we have one of the best safari places.
What's it called?
It's a safari. It's called the Jirapa Dubai Safari.
Jirapa. Really?
Just recently, I was surprised to see lions and zebras, and I was just surprised.
Wow!
Somebody just invested in the place, and even Eliza Olympio was there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, she's been posting this on her Facebook. So I encourage every Ghanaian to go.
How was the drive from Wa to Jirapa?
Another thing. For the first time, I didn't have to drive. I just jumped on a plane.
Okay.
From Kotoka International Airport all the way to Wa.
So when you got to Wa, then you drove?
I drove, yeah.
How was the road?
That's great. That's great.
Road was good?
It's it's very good. Yeah. It's been there. It's been good. It's been tired for a long time now.
So Jirapa is that where how far is Jirapa from Golu?
From Golu. It depends on which Golu you're talking about. Golu is in the, I think it's Sala.
Oh, Golu is far.
Yeah.
How far? Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want a bit of the geography of the Upper West region.
Yeah.
So
you have Why is the
capital?
Is the capital. And so Why is almost at the southern tip.
Yes.
And then from Why you just have all the other cities. You have Nadoli, for example, where Alban Babwin comes from.
Nadoli is before Wa.
No, after Wa.
After Wa.
On your way up north.
On the way up, so it's
So
Nadoli
you have
after Wa.
Nadoli. You have Kaleo actually. Kaleo, then Nadoli, then Jirapa.
Jirapa.
And then you can branch onto Laura.
So when you turn left, you are going to Laura.
To Laura. And then if you go straight, you go to Nandom. And then Hamile. And then east you have Tumu.
Okay.
And Lambuse, Golu, Belu, where the man comes from. You go up there and so on. So that's the
So
geography.
you are from Nandom.
And from Jirapa.
Yeah.
But I studied at Nandam Secondary School. I was there for 7 years. So
I heard a lot of good people come from that place. A lot of intellectuals.
Yeah. Nandam, Jirapa, Nandam, all those kind of places. Yeah. Yeah.
What is the reason for that? Because it's not such a huge place, but a lot of intellectuals come from that corner.
Place. There's something. One of the things, the missionary. One of the careers of education. Formal education or European education were the missionaries. Now, one of the earliest places the missionaries came to Ghana was actually Jirapa. And they didn't come from down south. They came from Burkina Faso. And they came into, so that enclave produced we started early. There were schools there earlier than in many parts of northern Ghana, and even in many parts of southern Ghana. So a lot of people went to school, and through that they were able to go to places.
Because I've interviewed a lot of them, and it's so basically your quest for education, your knowledge, your worldview was shaped in that area before you even came to Lagos.
Yes. In fact, I never had been to Accra. Until
you came to
qualified to come to Accra.
In 1980?
In 1980.
So you did from 1 to Upper in
Nandam Secondary School.
Amazing.
I only used to come down a little bit to my uncle who was working in the Obuasi mines.
Wow.
I know. But I never had been to the capital until I was coming to
And you
school.
did well enough to do a second degree as well.
As well. Well, after the first degree, I was employed as a teaching assistant at the University of Ghana.
Wow.
And then from there, I did my next
So
degree.
a Dagari person speaks Dagati?
No.
Oh.
Dagao, who is that?
Dagao is
speaks Dagari.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
So the language is called Dagari.
The language is called Dagari.
And the person from there is called
Dagao.
Dagao.
Yeah.
So
There
a
are other
Dagao
variants.
speaks.
Yeah. Some people say Dagara, but it's about the same thing. So, and in fact, Dagari and Wale is just like Fanti and Chui.
Oh, so
Yeah.
Wala people's language is Wale,
Wale. But it's
which is the language people in Wa speak
they
predominantly.
speak Wale.
So it's very a Wale person can understand.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of words that are related? Even though
Ba, dog, ba, to grow. It's the same thing in Wale and Dagare.
same thing.
Yeah.
So the languages are mutually intelligible.
It's mutually intelligible. And it's just like, I'm telling you, it's just like Fanti and Chui. Yes, advantage. Yeah. So Misha or maybe even Ghana, Dangwe or something. So in fact, they studied under the same unit at the various departments at the universities. Yeah. So for example, in Winneba you have the Gary department. You can also study Wale there in that
I see.
department. Yeah.
Because I'll come back to some of your work that
Yeah, right,
you've
right.
done later on, but I'm just fascinated about the school you attended.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of the people I've interviewed on this show who come from that place as well. Ben Kumbo.
Benkubo, yeah. He was my schoolmate. I was senior to him by 1 year.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
So he was also in Nandom.
Nanamsek. Benkubo was in Nanamsek. But he's from Laura.
He's from Laura.
He's from Laura. I'm from Girapa. But we're both in Nandamsek.
What about Ambrose Derry?
Ambrose Derry, yes. He was, I think Ambrose Derry, I don't know what he attended in Nandamsek, but he's from Nandam.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what he attended in Nandamsek. I think Navrongo. He
went to Navrongo.
Navrongo,
But
yes.
he's from...
He's from Nandam, but he went to Navrongo. So, yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. So I'll come back to the language issue. Sorry, I'm just all over the
that's
place.
fine, that's
But you write more recently about China, Africa, Europe, investment, and some of these things. What is your general view about the state of Africa and the world? I'm asking this question because when I was very young, the world was split between East and West.
Yeah, right.
Cold War.
Yeah.
These days, it appears to me there's the West, maybe US, there's EU, there's China.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure where Russia sits in all of this.
Right.
So, I mean, you seem quite interested in this whole power play over Africa, China's role. What are your general thoughts about that?
Well, actually, my next work, I mean, is titled, is going to be titled, is someone going to like something like Africa and its global relations. You know, we're living in a very tectonic. There are a lot of changes going on. There are a lot of changes going on, up and down. I mean, and so there are paradigm shifts here and there. And Africa, I'm looking at how Africa plays along, how Africa places itself in these paradigm shifts. So African studies is no longer about just the study of Africa for itself. African studies, don't forget that I'm a linguist, but I also do a lot of African studies. And so African linguistics and Africa. So Africa, you know, Africa is also about Africa and how it relates to other parts of the world. So that's my recent research trend. So I'm looking at what Africa can place itself in this global competition, for example, between the West and the East, in between the US and between China, and also I mean Russia sometimes leans towards China. So in all these things, so I'm looking at what are some of the positions Africa should take for a so-called win-win relationship.
Knowing that the global powers are always seeing Africa as one of the battlegrounds, for want of a better word.
We should no longer be passive. Under colonialism, we were mostly passive. And as in the contemporary times, we must be on the driving seat. That's what I say in one of my papers. We must make sure that, and we have choices. We have choices now. We shouldn't, and we have the resources. People want to come to us for these resources. It is time for us to increase our agency. It's time for us to increase our agency. It's time for us to say, look, we want to decide things for ourselves. No longer play along.
Do you think there's a withdrawal from, maybe let me rephrase. So when Trump came, he talks about America first. We noticed that China's president also seems to have pulled back from a lot of his international commitments. So, for example, the amount of investment African countries were expecting from China sort of dwindled in the past couple of years after COVID. So it seems as if global superpowers are becoming more inward looking.
Right.
What is that something we should be concerned about, or is an opportunity? How should African countries see this?
It's both. I mean, Trump issued Africa. I mean, U.S. first. That was the other issue. But I wouldn't say that China is saying that they will no longer come out swinging. In my latest article, actually, I talk about what is called the V-shaped investment.
The V-shaped investment.
The V-shaped investment. If you look at in the analysis of that paper, I looked at what is called the BRR, the Belt and Road Initiative. When you look at the figures for investment under the Belt and Road Initiative, before COVID, it was high. During COVID, around 2021, I don't know, it went down. Actually, now it is rising. It is rising. So economists talk about that as V-shaped investment. So I think that the COVID pandemic affected almost everything, and so China was was recalibrating. But I think that I'm very optimistic that it will come up there, and China needs us. It's not like China is being benevolent.
They need
China
us
needs
as much
us.
as we need
I
them.
mean, any country that has a very fast developing, fast growing economy needs what? Resources.
But it's fair to
Raw
say that now
materials.
China is a global superpower now. Obviously, obviously.
In many ways.
In many ways.
It is. Maybe it doesn't have the high, it still doesn't have, in terms of technology, it probably still hasn't caught up with the US. But in terms of the sheer size, in terms of the sheer volume of many things, whether in terms of, there are now far more students, far more scholars, far more scientists in China than America. So,
Oh,
for example,
is it?
Far more.
They are far more
And they're
size.
producing, if you look at publications, I mean, they're just churning out publication, patents here and there. So in terms of the volume, China is just going up there.
Amazing.
Yeah, and if they could easily catch up with America in terms of high-end technology.
Why has China done better than India, though? Because India was doing pretty well in technology,
Yeah.
IT, but it seems as if you compare just two large population countries, China has become more influential globally than India.
Oh yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, but the same population, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, China is. I think I don't know. I wouldn't say maybe China. India is still coming, but the Chinese are very persistent. They're resilient. They're persistent. When they have a goal, they keep going. And and the Chinese, don't forget that they don't worry about changes in government too much. They just it's the same political agenda they have. They just say, look, they say in 20 years' time we're going to get here.
No matter who's president.
No matter who's president.
So there's a national agenda that they are chasing.
And so they just determine. And these are leaders who, what I always say is that these are leaders who have a sense of history, who have a sense of legacy. What is, when you look at our, I mean, I'm going to leave India aside and come to Africa. When you look at our people, our African, what is, I don't understand, what is your sense of legacy?
Yeah.
What do you want to be remembered for? That's what we should ask. All African leaders should ask themselves this question. What do you want to be remembered for? The Chinese leader wants to be remembered for this and that. During my time, I pushed the country this far. Actually, some European leaders also, and some American. But in Africa, we have to sit down and ask ourselves this question. No. If I'm a leader of Ghana or of Togo or of Ivory Coast or of Nigeria, what do I want to be remembered for in the next 10 years?
That's a big question. A lot of people feel one of the challenges with Africa is that the continent is divided. We are too divided. So, for example, they think AU is not effective. And even within countries, So even forget about even ECOWAS, where you have different agendas. Even within country, there's so much division. I don't know whether that's a fair reason why we've not developed, in addition to the other reasons.
Oh yes, Bernard. That I hope we'll come to my idea of Pan-Africanism. The thing is, how can disparate polities challenge? Compete with large economies like China? The problem with Africa is that we are 55, dysfunctional mini-states.
55 dysfunctional mini-states.
We're not even states. Functioning. In terms of function. You might say that Nigeria is a very large place, but is it functional? It is a large dysfunctional, and I call it, I like such mini-states. Now the question is, if you want to compete with a polity like India, you want to compete with 1.4 billion, which we are also 1.4 billion.
Together. But we are 54 dysfunctional polities.
Why don't we just clear out these borders? Let's come together. That's what Pan-Africanism says, that to ensure a good future for Africa, we need to unite. We need to come together, pool our resources together, and do something. Then we can compete.
How do we start? Some people feel the division partly is because of colonial legacy. So even in West Africa, you notice there are a lot of countries who are very francophone in their behavior and orientation.
Yeah.
And then some are anglophone.
Yeah.
So indeed, some people even think that to bring this Pan-African thing working, we need to start talking about language. And they theorize that if you look at East Africa, because they speak Kiswahili predominantly, they're able to trade among each other better as compared to, say, the west of Africa.
Right.
So that the issue of Africa's unity is also an issue of language. So I'm coming back into your area.
Yes.
What's your view on this?
You're making me come to in my inaugural address. I was very honored to give this inaugural address. What I was saying is that Pan-Africanism, as I just said, it is an overarching goal for all of us. I don't know the alternative to Pan-Africanism. And I then looked at Pan-Africanism from different perspectives. Of course, there's the political version of it, where we try to build an African Union that helps bring us all together. It may not be functional now, but we hope that it can be functional in the future. At the economic level, we're trying to build what is called the African Continental Free Trade, which has a headquarters here, the Free Trade Association, or whatever they call it. AFTA. We have a headquarters here, and so that's at that level. And at the linguistic, at the cultural and linguistic level, what I'm trying to say is that I said three things. Africans must emphasize their mother tongues, their local languages, because educationists everywhere show that the best way to learn is to learn in your mother tongue. It is incontestable. Why are we not doing this? That was the first thing. Second thing was that let's try and develop different regional lingua franca. Like, Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, Chui, Ewe. There are some languages that cut across. Let's develop these languages.
In addition to mastering their own local dialect.
Yes, and my third thing was that, which was, I went swinging, which was that, hey, we have a continental language. We have Swahili, which has been adopted as one of the four, official languages of the African Union.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it is.
What are the four official languages of the African Union?
The three European languages: English, French, and Portuguese.
And Swahili.
And Swahili.
Okay.
So Swahili is the only African language that has been recognized as an official language of the African Union. It is an official language of the East African Economic Community. It's an official language of the Southern African Economic Community.
Wow.
So what I'm saying is that all Africans should try and learn Swahili as a lingua franca. I'm not saying that impose on them by government.
Should try and learn.
But just free willingly learn Swahili, which I call, actually, we Pan-Africanists call it Afrihili. Afrihili. Yeah. So, and the concept of Afrihili is to bring in vocabularies from different languages. So, for example, does Swahili have a lot of vocabulary for fish? If not, we can bring some from Ewe, which has a lot of vocabulary for fish.
So then you can integrate it
Exactly.
into some sort of African super language.
Exactly. So that we can learn it, we can teach our children. I'm not talking about now, I'm not saying we should all do it now.
But in terms of how languages develop,
Pardon me?
will this start from the classroom or in the market? Will it not be more trading and conversation?
Both bottom up and top down. Bottom up in terms of encouraging lingua francas develop in two ways. Both bottom up, like people just, for example, if you look at Chui, no government has imposed Chui on Ghanaians, but almost every, in the urban centers, Chui has just become our lingua franca. Free willingly.
Partly because of policy for radio.
Yeah.
Because the other reason,
and during the Achampon time, they had this. That was a bottom-up thing. They had this simple policy. They said that every Ghanaian should try and learn. Should try and learn to read and write their own language plus another Ghanaian language, or speak their own language plus another Ghanaian language. So that simple policy under the Achampon government. Just maybe that also helped, and maybe, as you say, maybe radio broadcast.
So I'm torn here. You need to explain. I listen to people who say some languages are being lost. So, for example, when I talk to my friends who are Gans, they say they are losing the language because in Accra there's only one Ga speaking station, Obonu FM.
Right.
There are lots of stations that speak Twi in Accra. A lot of kids in our homes in Accra hear Twi around them. So if you are Ewe or Ga or from any other part of the country, you get concerned that your kids are not even listening to their own language in the house. Right. Versus the issue of what you're saying about speaking the same language. So where should we go?
Well, you see, the point is it doesn't have to be an either or thing. We often look at these languages as if you must just learn only one language, or that you leave all beside and add all other language behind and learn one language. But no, what is happening? We can have a policy in which, in my work, I talk about a policy of trilingualism. Localized trilingualism. So that every child learns how to read and write their language. By the way, I always insist on reading and writing. But it's not enough to speak.
So reading and writing is crucial.
It's crucial, not just speaking. Be literate in your language. After all, Ghanaians, many Ghanaians are multilingual already. So I'm not even worried about that. But to be literate in your language, and then another Ghanaian language, and then maybe Swahili. And then you're done. You know, you're done. Plus all the other colonial language we're learning, and you're done. You're a great citizen. You can do well everywhere you go. So the point about to address the people about it doesn't mean that if Chui is rising
it's quite prevalent
around here, it doesn't mean that it means the death of other languages.
It shouldn't be seen that way.
It should be seen that way. I speak my language, and I also want to learn to speak Twi. I mean, we already speak many languages. So the fact that this is happening doesn't mean that we our language. By the way, the concept of loss of languages is something in linguistics that I don't think that African languages are dying.
You disagree with that concept,
no, I disagree
that notion?
Yeah, that notion. No, it's despondent.
Okay.
The thing here is that African languages many of them are actually right. There's a recognition, and there's a recognition by many Africans that they should learn their language.
But let me push this a bit
African
further.
languages
So, for
are
example,
on the rise.
I'm Ewe.
Yeah.
All right. So, I can speak it. I can write it. Not as fluently as English. Now, it's difficult for my children to learn it as easily as I did.
Right.
Do you understand?
Right.
So, and some people of my generation feel that their children are not picking up their languages as quickly as they are picking up English.
Right.
So, when they say they are losing a language, they feel that a generation will emerge who only speak English because English almost becomes their first language. So, these are urban people.
Right.
Especially Accra people.
Yeah, it's happening. No, I
Is that not what they mean by loss of language?
Yeah, I agree with that. There are more opportunities to speak English. There are more in that kind of sense. Wherever you go, there are more opportunities to speak English.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean loss of your language. For example, if we were to emphasize the language policy in school so that every child can read and write their language, it will if actually, when I was in school, I didn't get a chance to learn Dagare so much. Now Dagare is a subject examinable. At school.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of people in my area children who can read and write Dagare. That's an improvement. And I believe it's happening also in other parts of the world. I mean, Ewe has always been a written language for a long time. So that's also happening. So, but in the urban centers, I agree with you that there are cases in which there are more opportunities to speak English and maybe Twi, and few opportunities to speak the local language. But that doesn't mean that we should give up.
We shouldn't give up.
It doesn't mean we should give up. We should insist on the fact that these languages are spoken at home. I mean, it's the duty of the parents to insist on these languages.
The point I made about Ewe is also true. For example, I'm told that many Bonos don't speak their dialect; they speak Asante. So if you are born in Kumasi and you're a Bono person,
Yeah, right.
you will typically hear people around you speak Asante.
Yeah.
You probably only speak Bono when you go back.
But that's
to
dialectal also. Yeah.
But Bono and Asante, is it the same? What's the difference?
They're all part of Akan.
So once you can speak a dialect of Akan, you're okay.
You can understand most of them.
Yeah, you don't need to overemphasize one particular dialect.
Yeah, most Bonos speak Twi.
I get
Most
your
Bonos
point.
speak Twi.
So once you
And-
can communicate,
yeah.
read and write,
Right.
an Akan dialect,
Yeah.
it's fine.
That's what I believe. And I mean, it's just like Australian English and American English. It's like British English. So we shouldn't be too much worried about all these things.
nitpicking about.
Yeah.
I see. So let's talk about what you are doing in Ghana. So, listeners, my guest is Professor Adams Bodomo, a celebrated scholar, originally a linguistics professor, but you can easily say he's a polymath. He's into so many things. He writes about so many things. So we like his mind. Now, he delivered an inaugural lecture on linguistic Pan-Africanism to begin membership of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Science. So some of the points he makes here about how Swahili or Afrihili can bring us together is a point we will explore, not in this interview, but later on. He also helped Mary Bodomo launch her debut novel, Infinite Roots. Is Mary your daughter or your wife?
My wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, he also spoke on GBC's Legends of Our Time. He had a brief meeting with the Dagari Teachers Association in Wa,
Yeah, right.
which is a good thing, essentially saying when you were growing up, you didn't get to read it like they. So it's now examinable.
Yeah, that's
So it's progress.
Yeah.
Gave a workship at the University College of Education, Winneba. Appeared on a writers project on Citi, and is now on the Citi Breakfast Show.
And I actually gave a talk at the linguistics department. I forgot about that.
You did that too.
At the linguistics department in Legon. Yeah.
How often do you come to Ghana, and do you have any plans of resettling? You've done so much in Europe. What if we say come and be the AU special advisor on language?
Well,
After listening to your lecture,
Yeah.
the AU people say, come down, come and help us, develop a policy, leave Austria, come to Africa, we need you.
yes, sure. To answer your
Will
question.
you come?
To answer your question, West, I come very often. And it's getting there. I'll come down. It's getting there.
You will
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
as you develop in your career, you get concerned about the African continent,
Yes,
and you see language as a tool
In
for
fact, I have
development
consulted for the African Union.
already.
Yeah, I've consulted. We had many meetings together talking about the African diaspora and all these questions about remittances and everything. I've consulted for that. I'm not just only stationed in Vienna. I also come down many times to Africa. But yes, as to relocation, is on the way.
It would be interesting to pick your thoughts on being an African in Europe, and also because this morning I spoke to one of our ambassadors who talked about how the Ghanaians were trying to leave Ukraine,
Right.
Eastern Europe,
I listened to him.
Romania, and all
Yeah,
that.
right.
So you are based in Austria,
Right.
which is a bit central, but you obviously understand the difference between Eastern Europe and Western
Yes.
Europe.
In fact, Austria is the eastern end of the Western Europe.
Yeah.
After Austria, you have all these Eastern European countries like Slovakia, Hungary. So we're near the war.
Yeah, Austria is once Austria is taken, you know there's a problem for one side.
Yeah. We're nearer the war than people think.
And so I'm sure you understand the Cold War a bit better than most people as well.
Yes, yeah.
What's the fundamental between East Europe and Western Europe?
Well, I mean, it's part of this ideological thing that has always been there: communism versus capitalism. All these kind of things. And so it is a divide that is become less and less, but also can become perpetuated because of such things we have in Ukraine. So in Eastern Europe, the economies are not as developed as Western Europe. There's, according to people who think of it, there's less freedom. I mean, compared to so-called freedom, compared to democratic freedom, and so this kind of thing. So these are the divides. They've always been there. And so
I see.
We live in these kind of circumstances.
How do you see the Ukraine situation ending?
The Ukraine situation ending. Look, people always talk about. Of course, as an Indian scholar has always said, Vijay Prashad. He always says that war is a crime. So war is a crime. I mean, anybody who goes to war commits a crime. So that is a fact. But it will be simplistic to just focus on Russia alone. I've seen many analysts do that. It will be simplistic to do that. You need to look at what are Russia's fears. What were the things that led to this? Is the other side, problem-free? Is NATO? What is NATO doing?
The NATOization of Europe.
What is NATO doing? Yeah, exactly. So any analysis that doesn't look at both sides, you just blowing hot air. So
they must understand Russia's grievances and try and resolve these issues in the long term.
Yes, we must sit together and ask Russia, what are your problems? What is it? The United Nations must act and mustn't just condemn only Russia. The United Nations must look at what is happening. Let's sit down together. What are the fears? Now, there should be in fact, according to there should be a negotiated solution to this.
Wow.
So the war is not going to end. It will keep popping up unless there's a negotiated solution to this problem.
A few quick comments. Bernard, I'm thoroughly enjoying your conversation with your guests. Kudos. Do convey my appreciation. This is Professor Bonzi Simpson. By the way, we were mates at Legon same year.
Right.
I, however, read law and was in Commonwealth Hall.
The Vandals.
Yes, so Professor Bonzi Simpson he's now the head of Gimpa
Okay.
Law School. Bernard, another interesting thing? If you speak Frafra, you are 85% or more likely to understand the Wala, Dagao, even Dagombes when they speak. Most Northern languages are closely related. Is this true?
Yeah, it's what I call the Mabia languages.
Even Frafra in Upper East?
Yeah, it's what I call the Mabia languages.
I see.
Yeah, there are a lot of cognates. There are a lot of cognates between these languages.
I see. I understand there's a special
there's an opportunity to come together to make standardizations that help all of us.
I heard there's a special relationship between Frafres and Dagaos. Is that correct? Special relationship?
Yes, there's a joking relationship.
Is it?
Yes.
I see.
There's a joking relationship.
But I think people from Jirapa are naturally knowledge hungry. I met a photographer from Jirapa in Techiman. It took me almost 8 months for me to know he was an SHS dropout. He's one of the most open-minded people I've met, and his critical thinking ability is top-notch, and he's always ready to add on to what he knows. Kwabna from East Legon.
Oh, thank you.
And this is a photographer.
Wow. Yeah.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for passing through the show. We would be happy to talk to you again when you come back to Ghana. So what else do you have to do before you leave? Is this your last activity?
This is my last.
It's your last activity.
Yeah, I'm going. Well, you never know. No, tomorrow I'm going somewhere for what is called an MOU signing between a group calling itself Sino-African Relations and then Kofi Annan Center. I don't know what it is, but that's my last act tomorrow.
Somebody wants me to ask you where he can get your books to buy, and whether we can get your scholarly publications on Google Scholar.
Yes, on Google Scholar can get them.
So we should just say Adams
Bodomo.
Bodomo,
Yeah, just Google my name.
Bodomo.
Yeah, just Google my name, you can get them.
Because I think he wants to cite you in his work.
Yeah, sure, he can do that.
Adams Bodomo.
Yeah, not to make me happy, but for to see if if they're useful to him.
Oh, obviously they
not
would
just
be.
cited to make me happy.
I'm sure you know you are a mentor to many academics globally.
Yes,
a lot of them look up to you
Yeah.
for inspiration. Thank you for
Yeah.
doing what
Thank
you
you,
do.
Bernard, and thank you for the listeners.